welcome everyone to another episode of my weird little podcast. Yay!
Yay!
Today's host we have Teresa,
Hi. Hi,
and of
guys.
course me, Tia. I'm always here. But I'm excited for today because you are surprising me with a story. Um,
Yeah.
just a minute ago, I was commenting that your makeup looks really cute. And
Thank you.
oh yeah, of course. And for those who are listening and not watching, which these should be up on YouTube at some point. But for those of you who are listening and not watching, she's got very beautiful red lips and some dark eyeshadow going on. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming the episode is dark because you said you dressed appropriately
Yes.
for the
Yes.
episode.
I
Um,
dressed I dressed a little light, to be honest, for my character, but that's the best I got right now. So
Oh, interesting. And those of you who care, I'm dressed like I'm going to the mall in the 80s. Which I'm debating whether or not to go on a me date to Macy's today because there's this Macy's by my house that I want to check out. Um,
Mm.
and I don't know if I want to just go to Macy's and walk around Macy's and I don't know do what. Um, but it's called the Meadows Mall, which sounds like it's from like, I don't know. It sounds like it's from like one of those creepy teen books, like some Goosebumps
Mhm.
or like they went to the Meadows Mall and then, I don't know, something scary happens.
Yes.
Obviously, I don't write for teen novels,
No, but
YA.
probably not far off from a plot that they would write. So
Yeah. Um, but yeah, okay, let's get into the story because I'm really excited about what
yeah.
you have for me today.
Okay. Me too. Me too. Well, yes, I would like to start by saying that right now, when I was talking about doing a little makeup for and maybe some accessories for my character light, I'm wearing a rosary with black beads that I just bought in Santa Fe, New Mexico, not that long ago from the Loretto Chapel, which is just a little chapel in the heart of town, and it's where the miraculous staircase is. If anybody out there has ever heard of that, it's a staircase that was built with no nails and no obvious real construction of any kind, but it just
Oh
stands on its own.
yeah.
Yeah,
I know about
yeah,
that. And this guy just like showed up and built it and
yeah.
then just like disappeared.
Yes, it's a very mysterious story. And obviously it's well, maybe not obviously, but I was raised Catholic, and so I visited it before. It is a Catholic church now in chapel. Um, yeah, and you can go and visit it. I mean, even if you're not, a believer, obviously. And many people visit there each day. It's actually a very, very cool place. So anyway, I got this rosary there, and I'm excited. This is, first time I put it on. Giving me very, 80s, 90s vibes, which 90s vibes is exactly what I was going for because I am talking today about the haunting and various other things that happened on the set of the original 1996 movie, The Craft. So,
Ooh,
yes.
awesome. You
Yeah.
know,
I'm,
they did a craft musical out here in Las
oh,
Vegas.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
like a parody
Okay.
musical.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
I'm
Yeah.
so intrigued. But no, I love the craft. I always identified with Feruza Balk's
Yep.
character
Yep. That's,
so much.
mm-hmm.
And I know that's not good. In real life, I'm like, what's her face? The like Nancy. Wait, is it Nancy? I don't know. The
Well,
one.
Nancy is Feruza Balk, yeah. So
Oh,
she's
okay.
the she's the bad witch technically,
Who's
but
the good witch?
the Sarah is the
Yes.
one who moved to the town, which is LA actually, and she's the one who actually has the most powers out of the whole group. She has, telekinetic ability and all
Yeah.
different kinds of natural witchy abilities. So yeah.
I like to think in real life, I'm a mixture between her character from The Craft and her character from Empire Records.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm really more or less like Cher from Clueless, but let's be real, we all want to be Fruza Balk in The Craft, except for what
Yep,
happens at the end. We don't want to that, but no
exactly,
spoilers for
exactly.
those of you who haven't seen it. But honestly, you've had since what 1994 to see it, so
Yeah,
that's on you.
yeah. No, it's true. Well, 96 to be precise, but yes,
Oh, okay.
you were very, very close though, only a couple years off. And yes, I'm actually when I was talking about character light, this is my Nancy character light right now. Mixed with a little bit of me because, Nancy, I'm sure in her casual times would wear a tank top, maybe with the rosary, but who knows? They always showed her in the school uniform. It's quite frankly very hot inside my place right now, so I was not trying to wear my white button-down shirt and schoolgirl skirt. But
Mm.
maybe I will put the outfit together later if it cools down here.
Mm.
Because because it's been something I've been wanting to do. Yeah, I agree with you, Tia. I wanted to be Nancy as well, even though she was the evil one in the end, as we all
Yeah.
found out. Um, but she was the coolest one. She was the leader of the pack. So I know I have some baby barrettes somewhere too from the 90s, but I don't know where they are right now. So
Oh
I
my
just did
goodness.
like a more classic look with her, slicked her hair back like she has in one of the photos, a tight bun at the back, which you can't see, but and then yeah, some of the black makeup, eye makeup, I just kind of tried to shape it and smear it by using a jumbo pencil. So I'm glad you thought it looks like eyeshadow from far away.
Mm.
Good job for me. And then the classic lipstick from that time period, which was very much, this is honestly a variation on what I looked like for most of junior and senior year. I
Mm.
just did the black eye makeup, and this lipstick is Revlon Black Cherry, which
Mm.
has been around forever. So, um, for anybody out there who was 90s and kind of goth or what have you. Maybe
Mm.
you're familiar with the black cherry lipstick. So still a very good product. So that's what I'm wearing right now.
Fun fact
Um,
about me, I used to wear school uniforms in like second grade, and my school didn't have uniforms, but I started my goth phase very early on.
mm,
And I was trying to emulate, yeah, what I saw in like The Craft and like Wednesday Adams, especially. So
yeah.
you'll find pictures of me in like at my school, and I'm the only one in like a uniform,
Hey,
which I
that's
literally
cool.
went to like the French toast,
Yeah. Oh,
French toast
yeah, yeah,
section,
yeah.
and got like
Yeah.
actual uniforms to wear at school. Um,
Yes.
yeah, uh,
Nice.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. No, I was actually had to wear them on purpose in high school because I did go to an all girls Catholic school, which is kind of similar to the story in The Craft, although the school in The Craft was co ed. It was still
Mm.
Catholic, and it was all shot in Los Angeles. So, woo woo, shout outs to Los Angeles for the setting of such a witchy story. And I should say before I get into some of the things that may have happened on the set, I found out about all of this through a Facebook page that I follow. And that page is called The Sassy Witch. And I was just scrolling one day and I happened to see that she posted a whole little blurb about the craft. And I was like, ooh, what does it say about the craft? And then she kind of went into a very brief background of hauntings that had happened. I was like, oh my gosh, there were hauntings on that set. And then I was like, well, that makes sense. Why did I never think about this before?
Mm.
Um, Kind of obvious subject material for hauntings or other strange occurrences to happen, right? If you're talking about witchcraft, and that was the entire plot of the movie. So, yeah, it makes sense. But I had never heard about it before until, a couple months ago. So I got really excited and I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to talk about this now
Mm.
on one of the podcasts. So, anyway, that's how I found out about all of the stuff that happened on the set of The Craft. So, got my notes as usual. Um, I already said, I've loved the craft like many of you have since the late 90s when it came out.
Yeah.
Um, oddly enough, for somebody like me who at that point was definitely still trying to find my way, as most of us are, right, when we're teenagers, but um, I wasn't drawn to horror back then in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I was not a horror person, but for whatever reason, this was one of my exception films, and I did not consider it horror, even though,
Yeah.
I guess it kind of is. But I was like, oh, wow, it's about witchcraft, and this is really cool. These girls have magical powers and stuff. So I just thought it was very cool. And I remember showing the film to some of my friends, and they were just like, "What is this?" I
Mm.
was like, "Well, it's a film I really like," and they're just like, "Oh, okay, well, that's nice." But yeah, I really like the film, and of course, in high school, this is a true thing. I always got the Feruza Balk comparison. Because honestly, if you look at certain pictures of her and I, if we're styled, kind of similarly, we do look like we could be maybe doppelgangers. I've
Yeah.
gotten that more than once. And I always used to
I I
get
always
that in
got
high school.
Abby from NCIS
Oh,
um
yeah.
with my look, which similar vibe, I guess. A
Yeah.
little more
Yeah.
hot topicy, I guess.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Yeah, but for me, it was just purely because I did all those things. I wore the baby barrettes. I had this kind of makeup look that I'm wearing right now. And some girls at my high school were definitely the opposite of that. And they're like, you look like that girl from The Craft. So it was never meant to be a compliment.
But it
It was,
totally is.
yeah, I'd always took it as one because I'm
Mm.
me. But yeah, at that time, it was considered definitely more outside of the box, which I guess I'm glad I could, be that at that point. Because, and honestly, at high school was probably one of the only places I could do this look because at home, this was not allowed at all.
Mm.
So I was not supposed to look this way at home. So at high school, I think I used the advantage to look this way. So anyway, moving on. Um, so back to the strange things that happened on the set of The Craft. Well, for those out there who don't know, let me just give you a really, really brief, less than 1 minute plot synopsis on what happens in The Craft. If you happen to have not seen that movie, and you definitely should see it if you are interested in either witchcraft, horror, or just I don't know, awkward teenage movies because it's really good. I still like it. I think it still holds up. Um, anyway, so the main plot is that these are just four teenage witches who are just learning of their powers and trying to navigate the fine line between good and evil of their supernatural powers. And they find that, once you open certain Pandora's boxes, they're very hard to close. So be careful with what you're tampering with because you may not know and you may not be equipped to handle everything. So behind the scenes, there was a real witch who the production team hired to ensure the authenticity of the spells performed on camera. And this led to some very uncanny occurrences on the set. Um, some actresses in the film chose to continue practicing Wicca even after the movie wrapped. And we can probably guess who that was. Feruza was talked about heavily during the film
Yeah.
as, practicing Wicca, being a witch. And some people say that she became that way because of the craft.
Mm.
I'm not sure about that. Most of this stuff is just hearsay. But for whatever reason at the time, Feruza didn't even want to be considered even after the film was over. She was quoted as saying, quote, which I'll share with you later, that oh, that was just kind of coincidental, so it's kind of unclear to me why she um, spoke out kind of against it in a way,
Hmm.
because, it seems a little suspicious to me, quite honestly. But, maybe it's just one of those things she felt she had to do, or maybe I'm not sure exactly. I'll get to that point later.
Yeah.
But let's see. Let's get back to some of the strange stuff. So yeah, she was known to be a practitioner, but some of the other girls that were on the set, young ladies, I should say, at the time, and they were all in their early 20s, except for Rachel True, who played Rochelle. She was actually 30 by the time the film hit the theaters. So, believe it or not, that's Hollywood for you, right? We've got
Mm.
older people playing teenagers frequently. Um, but some of the others would never attempt to practice magic ever again. They got way too put off by the stuff that happened on the set. So the director himself, his name was Andrew Fleming. He was quoted in 2016 as saying that there were several inexplicable phenomena for the cast and crew. His One of his quotes reads, "One time we started to film outside because the forecast was good, only to be caught in a massive deluge, so a storm. And once a flock of crows just flew onto the set out of nowhere."
Ugh.
Now, some other stories, yeah, exactly. Some other accounts that I've read have said that there was also a flock of bats. So whether it was a flock of crows, a flock of bats, doesn't exactly sound, entirely positive, maybe.
Yeah.
Depending on how you look at it.
It's also not called a flock when you're talking about crows. They're called a murder of crows.
Oh yeah, a
Isn't that
murder. Thank you.
that's like
Yeah.
so terrifying.
I know. Yes, it is. And me being in this campground and, the other campgrounds and being surrounded by ravens constantly. Um,
Mm.
I like the ravens, but ravens are even bigger than crows.
Yeah.
So I guess, if it was only crows, they should be happy because these ravens are massive. I mean, they're the size of small animals like dogs almost. They're very big around here. um, but that was just a touch on some of the weird stuff that started happening. Another thing that was interesting, doesn't have anything to do with any kind of haunting or anything, but during the production, Firuza Balk purchased an occult shop in Hollywood that was called Panpipe's Magical Marketplace.
Mm.
And she bought it from a lady who had owned the shop previously. She was retiring and she wanted the shop to go on and continue, but she didn't have enough money really to keep it up. So
Mm.
Feruza thought to herself, well, I will buy it instead because I don't want it to be turned into something else. In fact, one quote from her says she bought it because she didn't want it to be turned into a Chinese restaurant. Now, whether it was actually going to be turned into a Chinese restaurant or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just something she said, but um, she
I've
bought it
told
from.
Oh,
Oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say I've totally been there before.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Vine Street if it's still there. But
Yeah, well, I don't think it is according to what I read because this account says that the store shut down in 2018.
oh wow.
So,
Mm.
yeah, maybe you had been there before then. I don't know because I haven't followed up to see if it is still open, but
Hmm.
this article was saying it was closed. Um, but yeah, she was also quoted, Feruza was, as saying, "I thought for the oldest occult shop in the country, that's a tragedy. Like she didn't want it to close." And I'm thinking, wow, was it the oldest occult shop in the country? Maybe it was in Hollywood. Hmm.
Mm. Yeah, maybe.
It's possible, right? I just
Hmm.
never thought about that. So, um, like I said before, at the time she denied being a practicing Wiccan. Um, but the director, Andrew Fleming, and Robin Tooney, who played Sarah, basically the lead. They don't call her the lead since it's an ensemble piece, but she kind
Mm-hmm.
of is the lead of the show, right? More or less.
Mm-hmm.
But they both attested to Firuza's knowledge of witchcraft in different interviews that they gave. So it wasn't just gossip columnists and, reporters that were putting it together. It was her own cast members and her director that was saying, yes, Firuza has a lot of knowledge of this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that's interesting too. Um, but like I said, Firuza, for whatever reason, she didn't really want to be associated with, being a Wiccan or practicing witchcraft or having knowledge of it even. And she was quoted as saying, but people, of course, were like, she bought in a cult shop and she's fully into this and it's all real. That has taken on its entire own mythology. That's essentially out of my hands. You can tell the truth and talk to people, but they want to believe what they want to believe. What can you do?
Mm.
So I'm not sure why she protested so much over it. I'm still not sure, but Hmm, oh well, it's one of those things. Um, and let's see. Oh, during the film, it was very likely that it was because the witch that was on set, that was the consultant essentially, she said that there was one actress when they were filming the beach scenes, and on the last day of filming the beach scenes, she said that one actress came up to her and requested to be dedicated to the path of the goddess on the beach. And she said this was on the last day of shooting. So I'm thinking it was probably Fairuza Balk.
Yeah.
That's my best guess.
Mm.
Even though she's never come out and said anything, but you know, being dedicated to the path of the goddess sounds pretty positive. It doesn't sound really malicious or anything like that. And I
Yeah.
don't think I don't think the witch consultant would have done something that was obviously going to be harmful. So
Yeah.
just something out there for you guys to think about. Back to another of the strange occurrences. There was said that there was a white owl, like labyrinth style, basically, that seriously, that followed the crew throughout the entire filming.
Oh wow.
And yeah, the cast claimed that a white owl had begun to appear in several filming locations. And this is a quote from Rachel True, who played Rochelle. She said, Nev Campbell pointed out the white owl that was following us around from different sets. I was like, that's weird. But I was new to California. And I was like, maybe it's just full of owls. I don't know. So I guess she didn't really
Mm.
think much of it. But still, yeah, it's pretty eerie, right? That there's this huge labyrinth like white owl following them around to
Yeah.
different filming occasions. Uh, and the filmmakers said that they couldn't tell for sure if it was the same owl, obviously, but regardless, um, if it's that noticeable and everybody's noticing it, it's a little creepy, I think. So,
Mm.
um, very interesting there. Um, they said it was too hard to ignore the fact that this owl was following them around. So, you got me believing. Um, and this is another thing that is not, um, a haunting per se either, but it's very interesting. And I didn't know this, and it creeps me the f out. The crew used live creatures instead of special effects. So during the end sequence, when all the bugs are out and the rats and the snakes, those were all real.
Oh
They were,
wow.
yeah, these were not special effects at all, because the reason for that was they probably would have used fake or more special CGI. I mean, at the time it was 1990. There wasn't that kind of level of sophistication then.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the film was on a very tight budget. So they didn't have the money to do all that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why they used the real thing. So at the end, when you see um, that cockroach, crawling on Firuza Balk's face, that is actually CGI. That one is not real. But all the rest are completely real. So the director said, quote, "We had 10,000 snakes. There was an
Jeez.
animal trainer. There was an animal trainer, and I just said, let's get the most bugs and snakes that you can possibly manage." So I think having seen that, seen more than once, they definitely accomplished that, right? I mean,
Hmm.
there's tons of creepy crawlies everywhere, and especially the way they shot it, in the dark with kind of the moonlight coming in and stuff, like even creepier. Both the cast and stunt doubles had to perform with live creatures crawling all over them.
Yuck.
Um, yeah, exactly. I think I would freak the F out. I mean, just thinking about it. And like those things on their own don't necessarily bother me.
Hmm.
But I mean, snakes, that's one thing. I'm not really that put off by snakes, although if they're venomous, I mean, a rattlesnake, yeah, obviously going to be scary. But the rats and the roaches, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, ew, no, no, just no. I mean, imagine being in that room and having to do that scene with. I feel like that would be worse than the birds with Tippi Hedren in
Oh
Alfred
yeah.
Hitchcock. Maybe not worse because that was horrifying on its own, from what I understand. And
Hmm.
Hitchcock also used real live birds during that sequence, but rats and roaches, no, I can't do it. I just can't. Um, so let's see. I told you that, yes, the consultant that was hired on to consult on, all things witch and authentic. She was known as a Dianic elder priestess and member of Coven Ashesh, and her name was Pat Devon. She made suggestions for ritual scenes. She advised on the elemental powers of each character, and she also wrote the chants spoken in the film.
Oh wow.
So those are not actual chants. Um, she also coached the cast on how to do the chants for authenticity purposes. So
Mm.
they really took this very seriously, looking at all of this information. I think it's great, honestly,
Hmm.
because the consultant, she kind of had enough like forethought to be like, okay, well, there's some kids that are going to try this at home type of thing,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So, yeah. So she was like, you know what? I want to make sure that no one is going to be fucking around with these spells and causing harm.
Hmm.
So that's why she made them up. So pretty genius, actually. Because, yeah, obviously there were probably more than one person out there that, was like, "Ooh, I'm going to try this." Um, let's see. Also, Andrew Fleming was the director, was quoted as saying, "One day, Pat came up to me and said she'd written a spell to make us number one at the box office. It worked."
Nice.
Yeah. So there you
Nice.
go. There's an everyday spell for success that obviously worked. And that leads us to the deity in the film. If you remember, he was called Manon, um, and he was created just for the film. I didn't know that before. Um, like I said, Pat Devon didn't want people to try to summon a real life deity, so Manon was created. And Manon, the idea actually came from the film Manon of the Spring, which that film was also basically fabricated. So it's
Mm.
a deity from a fabrication of a fabrication. So yeah, so no Manon, I guess, does not exist out there, but still, I still probably wouldn't try it at home if
Yeah.
I were you.
You
Just,
never did the light as a feather, thick as a board at your
oh
sleepovers?
yeah, oh sure, but I mean, like I did that like pre-craft, like when I was probably in junior high or something like that, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so no, after the film though, no, I never did. I just liked watching it. I think I maybe thought, well, no one else is going to want to try this stuff with me, so I'll just keep it to myself, you know. Um, but yeah, there was also, like I was talking about the beach scene before, the filming on the beach was really disastrous, according to the director and the casting crew. Remember where all the sharks are, you know, washed up on the beach and stuff
Yeah.
like that at the end. And even before that. Um, so they shot those scenes, like I told you, they were on a tight budget. They shot them on a real beach.
Mm.
They actually shot them on Leo Carrillo Beach here in Southern California. I haven't been there yet, but they said they chose that beach for, they just liked the way it looked production wise. I guess it was the best one for them. So, anyway, because it was on a real beach, the tides were a deciding factor in how they were going to film because the tides ebb and flow. So the filmmakers timed out the natural tide schedule, but the sea still rose during a take and
Mm.
quote washed away the whole set during one of their takes.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, they did not have any kind of good luck or energy on their side when it came to certain things. And then for the scene when Nancy calls for Manon to fill her, if you remember that one, it's pretty intensely dramatic.
Mm.
So lightning was supposed to strike her, but instead, the crew suddenly and with no explanation lost all power at that
Oh,
moment.
wow.
Yeah. So again, very creepy. So Manon's not real? Okay, but something else is real. Something else happened. So
Mm.
I'm not exactly sure what happened, but um and then getting back into some of the characters, um we were talking about Nancy, obvious, you know, cool bad girl that's obviously very evil and deeply disturbed. Um, then Sarah is kind of more innocent, doesn't really know her powers. Rochelle uh, was the victim of a lot of bullying and just learning how to use her powers. But then there was Bonnie, and Bonnie was played by Nev Campbell. And Bonnie was the one who had the scars on her back. That she was, you know, really embarrassed by. So I found out through this research, though, that something interesting I didn't know that Bonnie was actually considered the dream role. Did you know that actually Angelina Jolie was had auditioned for this role?
Oh, wow. I
And
could see her
yeah,
in the movie. Yeah.
yeah. It would be, you know, maybe it would have been even more of a hit. Even though she was still super young at that time, but that was right
Mm.
around the same time, like with Girl Interrupted and,
Yeah.
you know, some of her other roles that were up and coming. But so yeah, Angelina Jolie, also Alicia Silverstone. We were just talking about Cher.
Mm. Yeah.
I can't really see that one, to be
Yeah.
quite honest. But then also Scarlett Johansson. She might have made an interesting choice as
Yeah.
well. But Nev Campbell from Party of Five at the time was, you know, what I remember watching her on growing up as a teenager. She just had the best audition, so she nailed the role. And even Robin Tooney, the actress who was playing Sarah, she wanted to play Bonnie, and she
Mm.
almost quit, but her manager convinced her to keep the role of Sarah wisely. So, and yes, as you said before, Robin Tooney had also starred in Empire Records, and she was actually coming off of that movie when she went to film The Craft. So, this was something I didn't even think about. She's wearing a wig the entire movie because,
Uh,
yeah, because
yeah.
her head was still shaved. So, if her hair looks a little too strangely perfect, that's why.
Yeah.
Um,
I always felt like she looked very put together
mhm.
on, and it was crazy because I saw The Craft first and then I saw Empire Records and I was like, that's the chick who's like the uptight, put together goody two shoes from the crowd.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it was pretty crazy to see her be pretty much the opposite,
Yeah.
by records.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
just so funny because they quoted her as saying that she had to get to set a couple hours early each day so that they could, get her hair matted down and fit her for the wig. And she's like, and the wig to me always looked awful.
Mm,
She said that in every scene that she saw herself during the movie, she's like cringing because she's like, oh God, it's the wig.
yeah.
So it's just funny to imagine her with her bald head under there, or maybe not bald, but like growing back,
Yeah.
at least. So yeah, but it's true. Like she obviously wouldn't have been able to continue on with the role if she didn't have kind of that, normal looking hair. So
Mhm.
even though it's not normal. So now if you go back and rewatch it, everyone be looking really hard at her hairline and you'll probably be able to see the wig
Yeah.
lines.
Um,
um, moving on from that, I already did mention that the actors were, in their early 20s, and Rachel True was the oldest of them. She was 30 by the time the film hit the theaters.
hmm.
Um, and it's actually very interesting. Again, this doesn't have, I feel like this story for me started out as being really intrigued by all the strange things that happened on the set, but also finding out this kind of behind the scenes stuff that is actually very like real life troubling too was very interesting as well.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so maybe many people out there don't know this about the craft. I didn't know this, but the character of Rochelle got rewritten. Actually, it was originally written for a white actress to play, and in the storyline of the craft, that character Rochelle was supposed to have bulimia as
mm,
a problem of hers. Um, but because they cast Rachel True in the role, it got rewritten to better reflect Rachel True's biracial background. And I just thought that was very interesting. But it gets, you know, definitely more problematic from here on out with regard to that, because after the film wrapped, Rachel True said in interviews, various interviews, she wasn't invited to attend press events or
mm.
pop culture conventions after the film was released. She was quoted as saying, "It just seemed a little racist back then, to be honest, that you have four girls in a movie and you don't include the black one. I did end up going on one junket because one of the other actors called the producer and said, 'What's happening there? Will you please include her?' So they did." So, that's just totally messed up, right? I
Yeah.
mean, what the hell is that? And I had no idea that that was even something that had happened within the film.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a major part of the story. She's one of the four ladies. And how could you not include, not only in the press junkets, but you're not going to include her at pop culture conventions? Like,
Hmm.
that, that's just horrible. I mean, like you and I were talking about, we wanted to be Nancy. We thought Nancy was cool.
Yeah.
Someone out there was like, I want to be like Rochelle. So, the fact that she wasn't even allowed to represent herself as a character, that's terrible.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Rachel True, wherever you are. That's just horrible. But I did think you know, it was very cool that the director and the writers, everyone who was in charge of putting the story together, that they did rewrite the character just for her. So that part is cool, but the rest of it, no,
Yeah.
not so much. And if you'll remember too, that movie's got a great cameo. I mean, it's more than a cameo. It's a smaller role, but if you'll remember, what's her name? She was married to Ben Affleck at one. Oh, Christine Taylor.
Ben
Um,
Stiller.
yeah, Ben Stiller. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she played Marsha in the
Yes.
Brady Bunch movie. Yeah. So that's what she's most famous for, I think, comedically. But very funny comedic actress. And but yeah, on if you go back and watch The Craft, and watch those scenes between her and Rochelle, yeah, they're horrible. She's
Yeah.
just totally making fun of her, and then of course she gets her revenge when Rochelle casts the spell on her, and then her hair starts to fall out, and
Hmm.
but then she feels bad about it. So it just kind of goes to show you, just bullying sucks. Don't bully somebody else. Don't
Hmm.
don't pick on somebody else. But you know, high school seems to be the perfect time for those kind of things to happen. So I think the movie is great just for that alone. That it showcases those type of things that happen. And they really get under your skin, no pun intended. So so yeah, anyway. It's interesting too, another little factoid that if you're familiar with the show Charmed out there, which if you're familiar with The Craft, you're probably familiar with Charmed, which was the TV show that came a couple years after The Craft, kind of started the whole witch pop culture TV thing, I guess.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that Charmed, they didn't really care too much about distancing themselves at all from the movie The Craft, because they directly took and used the cover of the Smiths song, How Soon Is Now, which, by the way, I listened to on repeat when I was doing my makeup just to
Hmm.
get myself into the mood. Such a great song. But they didn't use the actual Smiths song in the movie. They used a cover of it by a band called Love Spit Love. And so that was first recorded for The Craft, but then they wound up using it as the theme song in for Charmed as well.
Hmm.
So that was cool. I didn't know that. I didn't really watch Charmed, to be honest.
Yeah. I've
Yeah,
never really watched it, so.
yeah. No, I just wasn't into it, and I think I might have watched bits of an episode, but also too, it was on when primarily when I was going to college, and I think I was focused on watching other stuff than not that show. I don't know why, but yeah. But The Craft, I will watch all day, every day. It's also interesting that Nev Campbell, I found out, almost didn't star in Scream because she was afraid of being typecast into this kind of horror genre role.
Mm.
Um, but it was Skeet Ulrich who played Chris in the film The Craft, the guy that
Hmm.
Robin Tooney's character was in love with, a jock type of guy, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
Um, and so we know, if you watch Scream, he also plays Nev Campbell's love interest in Scream.
Hmm.
So I don't know if he was the one who kind of convinced her to be a part of Scream, but obviously Scream was a great franchise for her. She was
Oh
in
yeah.
all of those movies. So she definitely made the right choice with
Yeah.
regard to being in the Scream movies. But it's funny to think that because she was in The Craft, she had a moment where she thought, "Oh, should I do this, other horror movie? I don't know if this is going to work out for me." But um, we're glad that she did go on to do it. And kind of one final thought I have about all of this stuff that I've been talking about. I found out that the film was supposed to be rated PG-13, but it was given the dreaded R rating. And that was only for one reason. And that reason was due to the censors that were stating that any film focusing on witchcraft is automatically given an R. Can you believe it?
Oh. Oh no.
I don't know if that's still true
Yeah.
nowadays,
I mean, I could
because
think
look
of
at all.
several movies that would not. deserve the R rating that have to do with witches and witchcraft, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. I mean, should the craft have been rated R? I mean, no, I don't think so, right? I mean,
Mm.
looking back at it, um, was there anything really that was R rated about it? I don't think so.
I mean, not really. It's very dark, but
Yeah.
no, not really. Yeah.
No, that's about it.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking, well, gee, if that was the only reason they had those damn censors for giving it an
Yeah.
R rating, that's just so prejudiced, biased, and all the rest. So, I mean, not that I really think heavily about film ratings, but
Hmm.
I thought that that was like one of my final thoughts. I was like, really? That's
Yeah.
ridiculous. You
Yeah.
know? So just one of those things. But yeah, totally filmed on location in Los Angeles. And so just to know that all of those crazy, spooky, weird things were happening here, bonus. I can go visit some of those locations and see if some of the vibes check out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's totally cool. Now I'm more interested to find out about, if I can find out any more background about the occult shop, and you said you had been there, that's really cool.
Mm.
Um, I never knew it existed, to be honest. So I'm just finding that out.
Yeah. Well,
But
I
yeah.
went to school like right up the street at AMDA, and so like I was up
Oh,
and
okay.
down Vine
Yeah.
Street
Okay.
constantly because I could really only
Yeah.
go walking distance of my school. So
Oh.
yeah,
Okay. Well, that's
yeah.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. So that is, and there's also some like the Sassy Witch, the original source that I kind of pulled this all from, because all of
Hmm.
my other source materials just straight from the internet. From ranker.com was where I found out a lot of information, and
Mm.
also Wikipedia, of course. But yeah, on the Sassy Witch, she was saying that there was even more weird things that happened that weren't talked about very much, like certain people disappearing,
Mm.
perhaps.
Hmm.
And that none of that has been verified. But they're kind of just things that people still talk about now and then. But yeah, I didn't know anything like this had happened on this set. And then, what's even weirder is that for the remake film, which I don't know if you saw that, I didn't see it. The
I
Craft's
heard of
Legacy.
it, but I have not
Yeah, I
seen
wasn't
it.
interested, to be
Yeah.
honest. I was just like, you know what? Oh, it's another remake, and why do you need to remake this film? It was already so good in my,
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm not interested in watching that. But I did see some source material on the net saying that they also had hauntings and strange occurrences on their own set. Um,
Mm.
so it seems like the overall idea, um, much like other big name films like The Exorcist, even American Horror Story was
Yeah.
quoted. Anytime you're dabbling in, you know, the occult, I guess, if you will, or talking about things that maybe you don't know that much about, you got to be careful, right?
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen. I even felt that way, Tia, just a tiny bit, like not a whole lot, but when we were doing our immersive with the possession, uh,
Oh yeah. At the
yeah, and didn't
yeah.
that place eventually wound up burning down, right?
Yes.
Strangely.
Yeah. Uh,
So okay.
for those people who don't know, we put together an immersive event or immersive show at
Hmm.
escape house
Yes.
that was quote unquote haunted,
Yeah.
but it was
It feels.
formerly an actual house.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, we had a lot of demonic themes
Hmm.
in and I was there at like 2 in the morning painting pentagrams in glow paint on the walls, and I had a couple of times where I was like by myself in there that I was like very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
while I
I
was
got
doing the
some.
setup.
Yeah. I
But
got some definite vibes.
yeah.
I felt a little spooked more than once, and I tried not to stay in that place because obviously if you start dwelling on it, that's not going to be
Yeah.
good. But
Yeah.
it definitely helped add to the mood, I think, of the whole show. So
Well,
there
you
was
know
that.
we did a ghost hunt there like a few weeks prior to us putting on that show. Um,
Oh, oh, for Hollywood's Haunted? Or,
yeah, we had Linda the ghost
oh,
hunter there with her
oh, right.
her
Okay. Yeah, I remember her.
what is it called? Where they do the motion capture of the ghost. What is it called? Oh
Oh,
no. I should know this by
yeah.
but where you get the little stick figures and she totally saw a stick figure on the couch there and there's supposedly
Oh, really?
a ghost of a little girl and I didn't even think about that until like right now that like the ghost of the little girl was like a big theme for
Hmm.
for our immersive
For the
like
story.
for the
Yeah,
story it
yeah.
was the Stephanie's character was like ghost basically who was the narrator and the host of the show. And
That's true.
I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that. I don't even know if we did that on purpose. I can't even
Hmm.
remember. But
She
yeah,
could have influenced you. You don't know.
yeah, who knows? We definitely were, dabbling in things we probably shouldn't have been messing with, as we do a lot, would not be the first
Yeah.
time. Um,
Nah, I don't
yeah.
think we took it too far though. I just remember there was one night with the moth. It was some kind of weird looking moth that was there. I don't know. Do you remember that? Remember hearing about the
Mm-mm.
moth? Okay, Patrick might remember, but there's this gigantic creepy moth and it just was that was kind of like the owl like thing.
Mm.
Like it was following us around type of thing. It was in the room and it just gave off the creepiest fucking vibes. Like no I felt like nobody ever saw this type of moth before. So
Yeah.
it was strange. And then to know after like way after we finished that the whole place wound up burning down, I was like, whew, wow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
So
Basically,
I,
for those who don't know what happened, after we put on this show because the escape room was going out of business, and we just put it on, in the space. I don't even know if we had permission to do it, but Pat worked there, so we put a play on and we
yeah.
charged admission and we did it. And
Mhm.
um, yeah, after we did that immersive, the place was abandoned for weeks and weeks, and like of course, a houseless person moved in, made it their
Mhm.
own, and yeah, the place burned down to the ground. Um, you know,
Wow.
that there was definitely like some spooky stuff going on with that show. Cause do you remember that like the prayer kneeler thing that we had? Like it's one of
Mm,
those things that you kneel on to like pray.
yeah. Yeah. Where
We
was what room was that in though?
That was in the last room with
Okay.
Micah and, the
Okay.
exorcism room where they were actually performing
Oh,
an
right.
exorcism.
Okay. Yeah, I remember.
Like a week before the show, when we're already like planning the show and having rehearsals, um, like a week before it, that kneeler thing just showed up by our dumpster in our apartment complex.
What?
And
That's weird.
so we just, we were like, that is perfect. We need that for our set. So we just cleaned it up and took it. Uh,
Mm,
it was just so bizarre that that would be in our apartment complex by the trash can, you know? And,
it's pretty
we
weird.
did live in a neighborhood that was predominantly Hispanic and predominantly Catholic, at the
Yeah.
So like we didn't think too much of it, but like now thinking back
Yeah.
on it, it's like but that's a weird thing to just find next to your like
Yeah.
dumpster, like and nowhere near a church. We weren't like
Right.
it wasn't like in the dumpster of a church, could imagine, or ending up at like
Right.
a thrift store. But
Mhm.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, that was some spooky stuff there,
Definitely.
you know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that just made me think of, you know, some of this weird stuff on the craft. So, yeah, I think, yeah, like I said, you just never know. So, be careful if you are really going to make a movie or a play about witchcraft. Make sure you hire a consultant, because it seems like if they didn't have the consultants, things would have got even worse. I mean,
Yeah.
look how it was with, them having the consultant. These strange things happened anyway. So, um, yeah. I mean, the owl, that's not really that bad, but it is creepy. But,
Hmm.
like losing power and, maybe people potentially disappearing, other kind of random stuff that happened, like the murder of crows showing up. So all very
Yeah.
strange. So yeah, that is some of the stuff that happened on the 1996 set of the movie The Craft.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of
That
course.
was awesome. I'm
Yeah.
excited what surprises you'll have for me next time. Uh,
Yes.
I'm glad I feel like I did kind of dress appropriately,
You did.
for this.
Yeah.
Definitely
Good.
tank top over t-shirt is a 90s thing. But
Great.
yeah, thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
For my listeners, please like and share this. Tell your friends you got spooky friends, you got
Oh yeah.
relatives who want to hear us ramble on about random weird stuff. So please, you can find us anywhere where you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all of them. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram. If you are stalking me, then you could probably find my personal Facebook or my personal Instagram as well. And whatever, it's going to happen. And yeah, I've been making some TikToks recently as well. So you can probably find those at my weird little podcast. But thank you, Teresa, for your wonderful facts today. And I hope you all stay spooky. Ooh.
Woo!